2008. I was 7 years old and I just got my new issue of Shonen Jump from Food Line so I could get some clarity on Luffy's success on saving Ace. I turn the page to get my daily intake of Bleach and Naruto Shippuden, and I see a manga announced called Nura, Rise of the Yokai Clan. It looked pretty cool, but I didn't find it very interesting at the moment, but I never really cared enough to read it, so I skipped over its one-shot. I won't lie to you, it looked pretty damn good for a manga one-shot, for at least to my 7-year-old standards. I won't lie to you, it looked pretty damn good for a manga one-shot, or at least to my 7-year-old standards. After all of that, I was entranced at the fact that Ichigo was fighting Ulquiorra. Fast forward 8 years, I'm 15, and I'm browsing some of my favorite manga, so I can find some new manga to read. Then, I come across Nurarion no Mago. Did I say that right? I don't think I said that shit right. But I come across Nurarion no Mago, and I read it, I love it, and fast forward 2 more years, and I'm still not done reading it. But then it came to me. Does anyone remember Nurarion no Mago? I tried doing research on YouTube to see if anyone did any videos on it or any reviews on it, but all I got was a bunch of low quality videos and a bunch of AMV surrounding Nurarion no Mago. But let's break it down, shall we? Does anyone really remember Nura, Rise of the Yokai Clan? Nurarion no Mago was illustrated and written by Hiroshi Shibashi and was serialized around March 2008 to June 2012. Around that time, unbeknownst to me, it left Shonen Jump to conclude the final arc of the manga, which would later then be published to Jump Next. Kinda fucking weird. Around August of 2012, it would be 3 chapters, each being 64 pages. This is 100% understandable for mangaka. They work under a pretty rough regimen, and around the time Bleach was starting to pop off with the Iran-Car arc, and like I said earlier, One Piece was reaching the Marineford conclusion and Ace's death. Naruto was also kicking off because of the 4th Great Ninja War and Naruto's fight against Kurama and him meeting his mother for the first time. So there wasn't really a lot of room for a lot of one-shots to be released, and no one was really caring for the new one-shots that were being released around that time frame. Essentially, a lot of manga weren't really getting looked at in a good light, so no one really cared for the new series. Fuck. My nose. Shit. Little side note here, I was scrolling through fucking Instagram, and there was some sauce there. And, I really like hentai, so I decided I would, go on ahead and put in those digits and look it up. So, it was some really bad sauce. I did not want that sauce. Bad sauce. But I'm not saying Nurarion no Mago was glossed over. If anything, a few people liked it, which I'll talk about later. And finally, later in January 2012, Viz Media decided they were going to start publishing English translated copies, which Viz Media always does. Unsurprisingly. To go on ahead and clarify, it's not a bad manga, but the plot is a little boring, but the art is really astounding, and the characters are really good too, and aren't anything to really give too much attention since the characters are pretty flat and they undergo little slight development. But everything about Nurarion no Mago is okay, it's not good, it's not bad, but it's entertaining to read at the very least. Reason I say this is from personal experience, and I won't rag on the manga too much because I have a little bit of evidence to provide you with this, to give some evidence that it was okay and that it wasn't bad. The plot of the story lacks, but the characters usually make up for with their unique personalities and response to situations, which I said earlier. Though it's the weaker compared to other Shonen Jump titles like Siren, Toriko, and Bakuman, which are the only ones that really leave everlasting impressions, Nurarion no Mago kinda lacks in that prospect. It's okay, like I said, but it's not bad. It ranked from mid to low in certain award-winning contests during its time in Shonen Jump, which is extremely important to mangaka so they can know where they slacked off and improve from there. So if there's anything bad that happened with it, I would pretty much say it's scoring. But like I said again, I'll make it another note. It's okay, but it's not bad. And there isn't really anything particularly good to really go over with it because it's so mediocre. It's so normal. I've been sitting down for an hour trying to do the script now. I just want to play fucking video games. The main subject of this video is, does anyone remember Nurarion no Mago? Well, I did some research on the matter and I found out there were people who read it and watched it. But ironically enough, these were years ago. But I found some recent reviews and topics on it from this year, but there were very few. There was actually only like 1. So it's evident that people obviously remember it and have read it, but there aren't a lot of people reading some of these older titles. It's reasonable that no one hardly remembers it because it took me a while to even remember that it was a thing or that it even existed. Nurarion no Mago is a great title so far, and I might just make a review on it at some point in time, but Who knows? Life has been fucking me sideways here recently. Naruto no Manga was a brilliant piece of work despite its mediocrity. The reviews I read weren't all that bad, but they were mixed. Some reviews said it was bad, some said it was good, and some people said neither. Even though I haven't finished it, I will say it's a decent form of literature, and it's not much to give light. Another thing I found that was pretty interesting was that someone reviewed this from 2009 and said that the story wasn't anything to sneer at, and that if anything, that Naruto no Manga is pretty damn underrated. The ball's on this guy, am I right? You could freely say shit was underrated in 2009. Shit. You say something's underrated now and you've got fucking people wanting to cut your fucking titties off. Now time for the beefy part of the fucking video. Do I recommend it? Like I have been stressing this entire time throughout the video, is that it's not a bad manga, but it's okay for a 2009 release. It's not Siren, it's not Toriko, and it's not Bakuman, the other only good mangas that were released in 2008 and 2009. Overall, even though I haven't finished reading it, and I've only read about 160 plus chapters, I can safely say that, even though it's a bit strange for me to say this, watch the anime. In this case, that is. The reason why I say this is because, like, there's 200 plus chapters out there, and, like, there's a weak story to it, and there's no point in you trying to, balance out you're trying to read it in, like, fucking weak story, rather than you watching, like, a 12 episode anime within the span of, like, 3 hours, and get all the narrative and points you need on the fucking manga that you could have got from the manga, but you got from the anime. So, it's all fucking up to you. I suggest you just watch the anime and not read the manga. So, as a whole, I don't recommend it. But anyway, this is Velvet Groove, and I'm signing out.